This presentation, titled Regulatory Preparation for an ISO 14001 Audit in the United States, comes to us from Melike DeGregorio. Mel is the owner of GreenUp Academy and GreenUp Consultants. She's an internationally accredited third-party lead auditor by Exemplar Global for ISO 14001, ISO 45001, OSIS, RC 14001, and environmental health and safety regulatory compliance audits. Mel has 18 years of experience in the EHS and manufacturing world. In addition to her role as a consultant, lead auditor, and lead facilitator at GreenUp, she was a corporate EHS manager for a Tyco International Division, air pollution control engineer at the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, and a production resource environmental coordinator at Frito-Lay. And with that, take it away, Mel.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, everybody. This is Mal. Let me just tell you about my companies, GreenUp Consultants. GreenUp Consultants is an environmental health and safety auditing company that was established in 2008. This is the time when most people would like to say I crossed to the dark side and became a consultant. So it's a woman-owned business, and mainly we focused on environmental health and safety, regulatory compliance audits, management system internal audits, or client-specific audits. So GreenUp Academy is solely focused on EHS training, which was established in 2016. We thought that it would be a great idea to focus a separate entity on EHS training completely. That's a woman-owned business also. And the training sessions we offer are mainly environmental regulatory training, OSHA general industry, EHS management systems, ISO internal audit training, and again, customized on-site training workforce for the workforce or management, etc. So let's talk about our agenda. I have lots of information for you today. I'll show you our learning objectives. There was a quick disclaimer. We'll do an environmental regulatory overview for the United States. And then I want to talk about the environmental programs, how I approach them, especially before going into a ISO 14001 audit at a facility. And then we'll talk about the initial preparation before the audit, the research of a company at a federal level, then the state level. And I have two teamworks today for you, which is going to show exactly what I'm talking about when I say we're going to how to do this research. And of course, I will share the resources at the end of the presentation and throughout the presentation, how you can get to them. So the learning objectives today are basically to be able to effectively prepare for an environmental, from environmental regulatory standpoint for an ISO 14001 audit, and understanding the tools to do a better facility research before the audit. I'll just go ahead and read this disclaimer for you. This presentation is not meant to be a legal advice in any way. If any United States environmental regulations are mentioned in this presentation, they will be based on GreenUp Academy's interpretation of these regulations. And of course, to obtain the most up-to-date information regarding an environmental regulation, consult with your attorney or legal department. All right. Law without enforcement is just good advice. Isn't that the truth? Having said that, let's take a quick look at the environmental regulatory framework in the United States. So we have three branches, right? Judiciary, legislative, and executive. The courts are doing the interpretation of the laws. The Congress passes the law, and President enforces the law. So we're not going to get into too much detail of this. Just want to show you the basic framework before we move forward. So first, a member of the Congress proposes a bill. Once approved, the bill will become a law by both houses. Once they both approve, then it goes to the president, who either approves or vetoes the bill. And once it's approved, then it becomes an act or statute, like Clean Air Act or Clean Water Act on the environmental side, of course. Then the act is codified in the United States Code. So once this happens, then to make the laws work on a day-to-day level, the Congress authorizes certain government agencies to enforce and enforce the act and create the regulations, like Environmental Protection Agency for the environmental side. And the regulations are the ones that are going to set the specific requirements for certain things, legal limits of certain chemicals, like being sulfur dioxide emissions being one of them. So once the Environmental Protection Agency proposes a regulation, it's going to be listed in the Federal Register. It's going to be open to public for comments. And once that's over, then it's going to be published as a final rule, and it's going to be on EPA's official docket on the regulations.gov website. Then it does get codified in the CFR. So you can go look at those regulations on ecfr.gov. So official record of all regulations are divided into 50 volumes. They're revised on a yearly basis. Wherever you see the title 40, that means it's the environmental. So you will see 40 CFR, 40 Code of Federal Regulations. That's Environmental Protection Agency, EPA's regulations. And then all the federal regulations would be listed under that. And it's revised every year on July 1st. All right. So EPA's role is to administer and enforce these federal environmental regulations, right? And they have about 10 regional offices throughout the U.S. They administer and enforces their own programs, and also they do oversee the programs that are assigned, delegated to the states too. So based on the environmental programs, certain programs are delegated, and the states will create their own state implementation plans, which means in this case, the state regulations have to be at least equally stringent as the federal regulations, and they can add their own requirements based on the conditions of their state. This is just to show you the EPA regions in the United States and territories. So like I said, there are 10 of them. And in terms of, I'm showing those to you because depending on which state you go to for a facility, depending on what environmental authority is there, there's always an EPA that governs that region. It's always a good idea to know that. Okay, so before an audit, this is how you can approach. These are the environmental programs, right? It starts from air quality, which is governed by Clean Air Act federally. It covers air permits, greenhouse gases, refrigerant management, etc. There is water quality, which is governed by Clean Water Act. And that's gonna talk about stormwater and industrial discharge. As you know, these are the ones that when you go to a facility, you would look for stormwater plans, whether they have a permit or not, either in terms of to see whether or not they properly identify the compliance obligations or operational controls, etc. So we have solid waste, which is governed by Resources Conservation and Recovery Act, in other words, RCRA. You would see the hazardous waste, universal waste in there. There is spill prevention, which is one of the major things that auditors love looking at, the spill prevention, control, and countermeasure plans. There is storage tanks above ground or underground, and there is Emergency Community Right to Know Act, in other words, we call it EPCRA, for certain chemical reporting requirements. Tier 2 report that is due by March 1st of every year, and toxic release inventory, or TRI, or FORMA reports. So you can separate all these environmental programs, as I mentioned here, before you start your research. So my recommendation is this. There could be other ways to do it, and if you have your own way, that's fantastic. But this seems to be working really well for me and the majority of my colleagues. So I have like 3 steps. The first one is initial preparation. First of all, it's always advisable to get the company's legal list or matrix in advance, so that you can familiarize yourself with the compliance obligations. In other words, their legal and other requirements that they identified for themselves, right? So that's going to put you in a better place rather than just finding out about them once you get there. So then, of course, you'll know where the facility is at, which state. That's important to know because for two reasons. One, it's always good to take a look at Google Earth, to see where the facility is located, like in terms of looking at the neighborhood, like see if there's a nearby water body, a creek or a river or something, because that's going to be important for stormwater or wastewater discharge or other things that they might be doing outside that they're not supposed to. And also, maybe the facility is in a residential neighborhood, and that's gonna that will open some other questions for your audit trails in terms of how do they make sure that they keep a good communication with the residents, or how are they handling any complaints, communication, etc. And the second reason is that it's really important to identify the environmental authority in that state, because it's not always the same. There's some states have Department of Environmental Protection. Some of them have Department of Environmental Quality. Some of them Natural Resources, etc. So it depends. It depends on the state. Why are they named differently? That I don't know. I do not know. But so you do identify the authority basically, and I have a link here to show you actually how to. A list of by the EPA. Actually, it gives you the list of all the environmental agencies in the United States. So you can always see them here, depending on which state you're going to go to. And in our exercise, we're going to take a look at that too. As you can see, all the states are here. And see, Alabama has Department of Environmental Management. This one includes the health agencies too, so I'm just pointing out the environmental ones. Alaska has Department of Environmental Conservation. Arizona has DEQ, etc. All right. So once you do that, this is just to give you an example. Again, Pennsylvania has a DEP, Virginia has a Department of Environmental Quality, South Carolina, Rhode Island, and Ohio. Look at Ohio. Ohio has its own Environmental Protection Agency. Some states do have that. All right. So the second level is researching the company at federal level. And I know most of my colleagues, sometimes they say, well, this is not a regulatory compliance audit, Mel, this is an ISO 14001 management systems audit. I get it. You're 100% right. I'm not saying dig into the regulatory compliance audit part at all, by all means. However, remember, ISO 14001 audits do cover, the environmental regulations are a part of the management system too. So without knowing anything about it, it's kind of hard to, or if you just ignore completely, it's not possible to complete a good audit. So this research is going to put you ahead of everything, and you'll feel more comfortable, even if you don't necessarily have to be an expert on regulations either. And I know when I go through the presentation, it might feel like it's going to take forever to do this research. Not at all. You can do it at your hotel room in a few minutes. You can do it on the plane, and it's the day before. It's really very quick. Okay, so at a federal level, EPA has two fantastic databases that is really, really very helpful. One of them is the Enforcement and Compliance History Online, which is they call it ECHO, right? And I'm not gonna go there right now, but I'm gonna show you when we do our teamwork in just a bit. And the second one is again EPA's multi-system environmental info database, where you can see all kinds of environmental information. And once you research for that company, it brings out all kinds of things that the EPA knows about this company. So like I said, I will go over that with you in just a bit. Okay, so the third step is researching the company at a state level. And for that, there is another website that is not a regular website per se, but it's been funded by the EPA to create all the good stuff. I will show you that real quickly here. Just show you. So per program, again, whichever program you want to see, it's called Gateway to State Resource Locators. It is really a very comprehensive website, and it does kind of show you, see the different programs. You have air, you have water, you have pollutants, toxics, you have waste, your hazardous waste. So once you go, you can pick, like, say you want to know the universal waste requirements, universal waste being the batteries, discarded pesticides, lamps, and mercury containing equipment at a federal level. You want to see if a state has different universal waste requirements, for example. You can click on universal waste here, and then it'll show you the state resource locator, and then say you wanted Florida, for example, and then it gives you all the information about universal waste in Florida. It has the links to take you there. So it kind of basically helps you to not to waste too much time trying to research, and it does help greatly that way. Okay. Let's see. So in some states now might have, in most cases, they do their own database. So you can always check that too. That's why it's important to kind of know what kind of environmental authority that state has. Then you can go ahead and do the research there. Okay, and it's important to look at the database, because even though EPA has a database where you can find everything all at once, it's not the same case necessarily for each state. So you got to know which program you're looking for, and whether you're looking for a waste program, whether you're looking for water, and they might have a different database for each program. So that's why it's important to take a look at that. All right. And then, just take a look at each program on the state's website, like I just showed you, what additional universal waste requirements or hazardous waste or this and that real quickly. It's not gonna take you long to do that. And then while doing that, take a look at the follow the environment program list that I showed you, which is right here. For example, and just to make it a little bit easier on you, air quality. Air quality is going to be both federal and state. There are major air permits, and that's going to be at the federal level. However, the states, in most cases, they have their own state implementation plans. Water quality, in terms of stormwater, it's one of the widely audited programs, as you know. EPA is the authority for Idaho, New Mexico, DC, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and all territories except Virgin Islands, and also federally operated facilities in Colorado, Delaware, Vermont, and Washington, and most Indian lands, but and some designated activities in some states. But other than that, each state has their own stormwater program. So, and it's important to know, because obviously companies are supposed to identify all these requirements, but there are situations, I'm sure you all witnessed, that the organization just identified the federal requirements, but they don't necessarily, in a situation where the state has their own requirements more stringent than the federal, and they didn't do that. So that way you would be more prepared. For industrial discharge, the same way, it's federal and state. Spill prevention, it's mainly federal. It's not delegated to any states. There could be some requirements at a state level in a different way, but this regulation has not been delegated to states. Storage tanks, again, it could be state and federal. Emergency Community Right to Know Act, it's going to be mostly federal. Some states might have additional requirements for reporting, but generally it's going to be at a federal level. And solid waste RCRA, it's mainly state specific, I would say. Some states do follow the federal regulations, but it will be advisable to take a look which ones. And then universal waste, there could be some differences. Again, the federal universal waste streams have to be they have to meet that first, and then they can have their own stringent requirements. Okay, so our first teamwork. I want to show you. Remember, we talked about asking for the legal matrix in advance, or a list of compliance obligations per the new ISO 14001, however you want to call it. So I want to show you that list. So we're going to look at Green Up Electronic Waste Recycling Services. There is no such company. I totally made it up. So let me show you this now. All right. So let's say you ask the company that, hey, I need a copy of your compliance obligations or legal and other matrix. And they did send you this. Apparently, they combined it under one, both environmental and health and safety requirements. So here, if you look at on the left, the first column here, they put programs, the environmental programs, water, and then let me just go up real quick. Okay, water, waste, etc. So I'm looking at the requirements. They gotta identify the state levels too. So I'm looking at. Remember, I said 40 is EPA environmental regulations. So 40 CFR 112. We know that that's spill regulations. And then here, if you look at it, they put a permit plan and report. So if there is a permit plan or report for that per that regulation, then this could be your sample document to look at and see how they're conforming. This could be one of their operational controls in place that you might want to verify. And again, based on your site inspection, you might want to match those to what you observed during site inspection and the requirements of that plan. In most cases, you do see the plan is in place, but it's just there for the sake of being there. It doesn't necessarily reflect the conditions of the facility. So they put some state requirements. This company is located in Massachusetts, and then if you look at here, regulatory body, see, we talked about spill being federal level. So it's talking about United States Environmental Protection Agency, and we have Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection here. They have a stormwater requirement. See here, they say they have a no exposure certificate, which means they're not allowed to store anything uncovered in their external grounds that might be mobilized during a storm event. So then you would look at those when you do your external grounds site inspection. Now you know that, okay, well, they have a stormwater certificate, no exposure, so no garbage container could be uncovered, or no chemicals uncovered, things like that. So you go there, at least like you will be more educated before you do your site inspection that way. So you know what's coming. And then let's take a look at the waste side. They identify the hazardous waste requirements here, universal waste. So they do put the universal waste streams, and then they have these reports. So one of these reports, for example, here we talked about EPCRA. See, they put it right here, emergency planning, release, etc. And this is one of the reports that is due on March 1st. So you might want to, take a look at that if you choose to sample it, etc. And then they have their other safety stuff that I won't go over. So basically, the whole idea is just for you to be more prepared before you go in and start asking questions and follow your audit trail. That's the whole idea. All right. So, Okay, we have one more teamwork for you. So I talked about, the initial prep and federal and state level research. So we're going to pick a company now, and we're just going to go ahead and follow all the things that I just mentioned to you and see how it works out. Okay, so the company, for the sake of this exercise, the organization is going to be Jacksonville Naval Air Station. Okay, it's a pretty large. They do have ISO 14001 certification, though. So the location is Jacksonville, Florida. And we'll check it on Google Earth. And some of the applicable regulations, since we asked them to send their legal matrix in advance, they're saying they report the tier 2 and TRI reports per EPCRA. They have universal waste, stormwater. Obviously, it's not, I just, for the sake of this exercise, just put those. But since it's a gigantic place, they have more requirements. But just for the sake of this exercise. So let's take a look at the Google Earth first. So here you see Google Earth is a fantastic tool. You can see it here, Jacksonville Naval Air Station, and then so that they're located, as you can see, these red things are the borders of the base, right? And obviously it's a large area, but that there's they're right near a water body. So you want to make sure that when you do your audit plan and when you go visit whichever area, whether it's the entire base certified or certain locations, you're going to have a better idea in terms of their activities and where they're located and what they're doing in terms of preventing any potential pollution to the water body here. So that's always good to look at. Gives you more information. Then comes the federal level research. I talked about ECHO, right, and EnviroFacts. So let's go ahead and look at those. See what we're gonna find. All right. So let's start first. ECHO. ECHO looks like this, right? echo.epa.gov. And like I said, it's extremely useful tool for someone to look further information. Okay, so we put in U.S. Navy Naval Air Station, Jacksonville. And then once you click on search, you see this page comes to you. See here, U.S. Navy Naval Air Station, Jacksonville. And then you can either click on this one. And like I said, obviously it takes a while to explain those things, but doing these things is just like click. It's very quick and not time consuming at all. So here there are different types of reports. You can either pick, air, water, etc. You can either pick one of those if you choose to, or you can just click on this one on the name and then it'll open up some more stuff. See, it's telling you the inspection years here, whether or not they have a significant violation, the quarters with non-compliance here, and it gives you basically enforcement action. If you see a certain violation here and you go to the company and you're trying to find out whether or not they have violation, and if they say no to you, well, that's a problem then, right? So you click on the name, and then it brings you this detailed facility report. And here you can tell whether or not, they give you the regulatory information. So you'll have a quick idea in terms of what permits you have. And then that'll give you an idea in terms of what you're going to sample during your audit, right? See, we talked about statutes. You see Clean Air Act here, Clean Water Act, RCRA, which is the Hazardous Waste, Solid Waste Resources Conservation Recovery Act, and this is Drinking Water Act. So it would give you the date of last inspection, and it tells you the compliance status here, violation unresolved here, and violation identifier. So this is something, you might want to follow up and see, hey, how do you handle violations? What violations you have? What happened? Whether maybe there was something before that they did, and then they took a corrective action, but it reoccurs. So that way you get to look at their corrective action system. So, the audit trails that you can take off of that are endless, basically, as you know. So you can go further down and just get some more details. You can get as much details as you want, or as little as you want, basically, just to give you an idea here. And I want to show you EMIRA facts also. So ECHO is mainly the compliance information. EMIRA facts is like all the data, whatever, whenever a facility submits a report, like at federal level. If it's just state level, EMIRA facts most probably is not going to show you, but then it would just bring it up for you. So emira.epa.gov. You put here, again, U.S. Navy Naval Air Station Jacksonville, and then it brings up the facility here for you. So you can click on summary report here to get a quick summary of the facility, just to see, like what kind of hazardous waste generator they are, what kind of permit they do have, etc. You can get a facility report here and see this yellow compliance report. When you click on this one, it's actually the same thing as ECHO would bring to you. So it depends on how you want to go at it. You can just use one of them too. Let me just show you the things that comes up once you click on those. So it gives you, again, like a air information. And since this is a really large location, there's a lot of things, but it would just list you air, water, and everything one after another. You would have a pretty good idea. Here, it's just kind of a summary report for you, CFRS facility detail report. So it would give you the, like you can see here, for example, they have a stormwater. Look at a stormwater construction permit, for example. So they must be doing some construction. And here it says, you see this LQG. This means they are a large quantity generator of hazardous waste. Why is that important? It is because depending on the type of generator, hazardous waste generator status, they have different requirements. Like if they're large quantity, for example, they have to submit a report every 2 years by March 1st type of thing. So that way you know that. I mean, hopefully they do know that too. It's not always the case, but you hope they would. They do have a stormwater industrial permit also. So my point is basically you see all those things. And then I want to show you another one, the TRI report, Toxic Release Inventory. That's all public information. So this report is due every year by July 1st. It's basically EPA's way of understanding, based on the operations of a facility, what kind of toxics are you emitting to the atmosphere. So that's what it's telling you. And there's a list of chemicals. So, and apparently this naval base is doing that. And the last time they reported was 2018, because the 2019 report is going to be this year, July 1st. So you can click here and get their TRI facility report if you want to. And this would be the TRI facility report. See, it gives you the facility information. And then you can, if you want to know what chemicals they're reporting, if you click there, and then it will show you those chemicals, etc., etc. Okay. So like I said, you can get as much detail or as little detail as you possibly want. So after that, there is the state level research. So for this, I did show you at the beginning a website where it's not regulatory necessarily, but this one, envcap.org. So this was funded by the EPA, and you would see it from a reference from EPA's website to this site also. So it does help you. It does help you greatly to quickly locate different programs and what to do, how to do. So we did talk about universal waste. So you click here, and then the space is in Florida. In each state you can see, and then when you go there, you see there's a Department of Environmental Protection, and there's the universal waste rule, and it says here which uses federal regulations. So now you know that, if they try to do other things as universal waste, well, it's not going to be the case because they're following federal rules. And then if you click further, there's Florida Department of Environmental Protection's universal waste. So you can get just some more information here. Different handler types for universal waste. That's important too, like hazardous waste generators. Why? Because they have different types of requirements for each type of handler. Once they're large quantity handler, and their legal matrix would help you with that, or your EnviroFacts research would help you identify, or you can simply ask them to. That's always a solution too. So and they would have different requirements. So, and you can just complete your research that way. Okay. Let's see. So these are some resources for you. Of course, EPA's main website is always very helpful, or you can just go to that regions, wherever whichever company you're going to go to, depending on the state where it's located. You can choose that region, and then ecfr.gov for the regulations. But make sure you check the current date, updated as so and so, it would tell you. And then the one that I just showed you, this website here, are your resources. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Here's my contact information. It was great talking about this research here today, and thank you for listening to it. And thank you, Exemplar Global, for this opportunity. Back to you, Mike.
And thank you, Mel DeGregorio, for that look at regulatory preparation for an ISO 14001 audit in the United States. And that concludes this presentation.